common percentages of increase and decrease. Okay, for 200, we're going to make a 10% increase. So we'll start off with 200. And this will represent the original amount, which is 100%. To find 10%, we're basically going to divide this by 10, or should I say, remove one of the zeros, remove the decimal point. So that number would be 20. 20 represents 10%. Now we're going to add 20. So 200 plus 20 gives us 220. This is the 10% increase, giving us 110% of the original. Now, 20%. To do 20%, you have to know the 10% and double it. So what we'll do is write down 200 as the original, and we'll call it 100%. And since 20 is 10%, so 10% is represented by 20, 20% will be represented by 40, okay, which is basically multiplying this by 2, or just 20 plus 20. Now let's increase it. We get 240 here, and 240 is the 20% increase, or should I say it represents 220%. Next, 300. Let's do a 10% increase on that. Well, 300 is the original number, which is 100%. To find 10%, we're basically going to divide this by 10. And instead of 300, we'll get 30. 30 represents 10%. Now we're going to increase it, so we're going to add. So 300 plus 30 gives us 330. 330 represents 110%. Now, 20%. Increase in 300. 300, once again, is the original amount, so that's 100%. Since 10% represents 30, 20% will be represented by 60. And then we'll increase that by adding them together. So 300 plus 60 gives us 360. This represents 120%, or should I say 20% increase. Next, let's talk about decreases. So let's say we have 40, which is original, and we want to decrease that by 10%. So 400, once again, is original. That's 100%. The 10% will be found by dividing 400 by 10. We'll get 40. Okay, that's a 10%. And since we want to decrease it, we're going to subtract. Okay, 0 from 0 is 0. Cannot take 4 from 0, so we're going to borrow. It's 3, it's 10. 4 from 10 leaves 6, and the 3 comes down. So 360. 360 represents 90%, or a 10% decrease in the original amount. Now let's take a look at what it takes to have a 20% decrease. Okay. The original amount is 400, which represents 100%. Okay. If 10% is represented by 40, then 20% will be represented by twice that, or should I say 80. So 80 is 20%. We're going to decrease that, and we're going to get 0 from 0. And we'll make this a 3 and borrow. So put 0, make it 10. So 8 from 10 leaves 2, and 3 is 3. So that's 320. This 320 is 80%, or should I say it represents a 20% decrease in the original. 500. We want to make a 10% decrease. So 500 represents the original, so we'll call that 100%. And we want to find 10%. To find 10%, we're going to divide 500 by 10, and it becomes 50. So 50 represents 10%. So let's decrease that. And what we'll get is 0 from 0, 0. We'll make this 4. We'll make this 10. 5 from 10 equals 5, and 4 comes out. So that's 450, which represents 90% of the original 500. Lastly, we want to make a 20% decrease. In 500 being the original, that's 100% of the amount. Okay. And this time we want to decrease this by 20%. Well, if 10% is represented by 50, then 20% will be represented by 100, or twice the 50, which is representing 10. So that's 20% from 100. You want to subtract? Okay, so 500 take away 100 leaves us 400. 400 represents 80% of the original 500.